Hello, hello. Just going to give it a few minutes for anybody to join us. Really excited about this little chat that I'm having this evening. Yes, we're live in Facebook, so I can put that away now. Fantastic. I will check back on it for questions. If you are coming on and joining us this evening, would love for you to say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. If you are watching and haven't registered with StreamYard before, there is a link somewhere around this video. I was trying to find it earlier. And I will also actually post the link in the comments. That's probably the best thing to do. And then if you just click on this link, it's not going to take you away from the talk. You're not going to lose connection to anything that we're doing here. All it's going to do is give StreamYard permission to see your name so that we can actually see who's talking to us. Looking at my phone here, we've got Susie Musk, Vicky, Alison. Hello, guys. Lovely to see you here. I know that some other people have said they're going to hop on, but we will crack on and let people join as they do. So without further ado, let's get cracking. I am absolutely delighted to welcome my bestie, Kellie Jones, into the Glow Club this evening. She is magical, is my best word to describe her. She's got 30 plus years experience in health and well-being. She uses Strala yoga, Pilates, gong baths and sound journeys. She's an astrologer in training, so I'm forever getting astrological insights from her. She's a moonologist. She can read cards. What this lady doesn't know is I don't know. She's just a spiritual lifestyle guide. She is my little personal guru, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome Kellie Jones to the Glow Club.
Good evening. So excited. So when we talked about doing this, we were actually sitting in the pub discussing it, and we were so excited, and we had all these ideas, and then we've kind of finally come on screen, and we were like, oh, what do we talk about? Because we know all the answers from each other, so it's going to be fun to see what comes through.
Yes, absolutely. So we haven't actually really got a specific plan. Self-love is something that we've both been practicing for a long time, but it's something that you actually teach people. So you were just the most, when I sort of thought I want to do something about self-love, you were sort of the perfect person to invite on. Why not? So I'm going to start with a question. In terms of, how did you start your journey into self-love? What is self-love to you, and how did you come about doing it?
Well, my now description of self-love is love for oneself unconditionally, regardless. Because for a long time, I was doing what I thought was practicing self-love. But then, like anything, when you start to practice something, when you sort of fall off the wagon and you realize that you're not practicing it, you then beat yourself up for it, which I realized if you beat yourself up for something, that's not self-love. So it has to be regardless. And I was thinking about this before I came online with you, thinking back to how long I've known you for and what we would have considered many years ago to be self-love, and to now realize, with all the wisdom and all the lessons and things that we've had since then, to realize that a lot of what we thought were loving practices were not really at all. Whether it be the food that we were eating or the practices that we were, so an example of that would be me practicing yoga and, pushing myself to be in a really difficult yoga pose because I felt like I ought to be able to do that because I'm a teacher and I own a yoga studio. And maybe I was attending one of my teacher's classes and she wanted me to be able to show people what to do, and I probably didn't feel like it because I was really tired, but I felt like I ought to. So a very people-pleasing behavior. And, you know, right back to my beginnings in, before I even was in the land of well-being, I was a dancer. And so in the world of dance, you know, self-punishment is almost normal. You don't think of it as self-punishment. You know, you just accept the fact that it's painful. Whereas now, if I'm doing something and it's painful, that's my body saying, please don't do this to me. You know, there must be a better way of getting there. But my actual sort of, the time that I started to use the words self-love, well, actually, it's funny that I've got a cat sitting on my lap now, because, you know, animals are unconditional, aren't they? They love you regardless. And 10 years ago, so I know it was 10 years ago in February, my previous cat, who I call my soulmate cat, Sweep, he passed away. And I was so devastated to have lost him that I really wasn't looking after myself. I'd stayed awake through the night with him. I'd taken time off work, and I can remember being awake at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, just bereft. And, you know, what else do you do at 4 o'clock in the morning? You go onto Facebook. I wouldn't do that now, but then I did. And I remember seeing this, somebody had uploaded a song. Somebody that I knew had uploaded this song. So I decided to listen to this song. And it was a song by a band called Bridge. And it was called Watch Over You. And there were these words in it. And I literally, if my cat had been able to send me a message through the ethers, I felt like as if he was talking to me. And the line in this song was, how can you love someone and not yourself? And I can remember I just cried and cried and cried when I heard that line. And that was like a switch inside me where I realized as soon as I went back to work, I realized that I'd been making sure that everybody else was okay except myself. And it suddenly became glaringly obvious that I'd put all my energy into making sure my clients were happy, the people that worked with me were happy, my business partner was happy, everybody, but I was actually suffering. And so that began this journey of changing myself from being, you know, in what I discovered was, you know, a lose-win situation where everybody was winning and I was losing, and turning that into a win-win. So anything that I would do now, I'll step back and think, you know, is everybody going to win in some way in this situation? Or, you know, considering myself in the situation. And then that's still a practice. I still, you know, it's my nature as a Cancerian to nurture others. it's the mother nurturer energy, and that can override. Sometimes it could be like a default if I'm not concentrating, if I'm not focused. So it's always bringing yourself back to that point of, you know, how am I in this? And that's where Strala Yoga came in to my life. And I can remember how that came into my life. Whilst I'd been at home with my poorly cat, I'd been watching things on YouTube, and I'd come across this lady called Tara Stiles and this Strala Yoga. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I really, really would like to do the training with her, and she was based in New York, and I saw that she was coming over to London. So I did like a little vision board, and I did a note to myself on my phone saying thank you for the money to afford to go on the course. And when that finally arrived, when she was in London for that course, the money didn't arrive. And because I'd been so upset about my cat, I took myself off to a Buddhist meditation where I got a blessing. And so I was given this Buddhist blessing, and I was thinking, oh, you know, I'm starting my self-love plan here. And I can remember I literally minutes after this blessing, I went to get in my car. And as I got in my car, I put my neck out. I literally put a disc in my neck out, and I was in agony. And I was like, wow, some kind of blessing that was. But, you know, I look at it now that I call it, I can't remember who I heard this from, but it's called a gift wrapped in sandpaper. So, you know, through the pain, you find the gift. And the gift was that I wasn't able to do this intensive advanced yoga training that I wanted to do. And it was a Monday night when I would normally have been teaching an advanced Pilates class, which would have obviously taken a lot of energy. And I couldn't do that because of my neck. And I saw that Tara Stiles was doing a book launch at Alternatives in London. So, and that was £12, which I did have. So I took myself on a train up to London to the book launch. And the book that she was launching was called Make Your Own Rules Diet, which is where I think, you know, this comes into where we're connecting in this talk. And it was about, that book was about sensitizing to yourself and making your own rules, because you're starting to notice how you feel in whatever you're doing, whether that be the food that you're eating and noticing how it makes you feel, or how people around you, how you feel being around them. When I'm teaching, how does my body feel? So literally sensitizing to myself. And so I actually met her that evening, and then, you know, leaping forwards a couple of years down the line, well, it's quite a few years down the line, really, I found myself eventually not in London, but in New York. So London was me limiting myself in what I might be able to have. And ultimately, once I got on the self-love journey, I actually got more than what I'd expected. I had this picture on my vision board of the New York studio, and I now have a picture of me in that New York studio. Yeah. But I really don't think I would have ended up there if I hadn't have started on that journey of noticing how I feel.
So coming down to getting into the crux of it, it's self-love is really a mindset.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of think, oh my goodness, self-love, I don't even know where to start. So just to get yourself into what do you do to get yourself into a self mindset? Say when you get up in the morning, what is your kind of routine to set a self-love mindset for the day?
Well, so I suppose back in the day, and I mean, this is quite an admission, quite a confession in public life for anybody who's known me for a long time. But in the mornings, many years ago, like 10 years ago, I would have got up in the morning, and the first thing I would have done is made myself a coffee with a spoonful of sugar in it, albeit it might have been brown sugar and not white sugar. And I suppose that's slightly better. But I used to go out and have a cigarette. You know, that was where I started. That was my sort of torn between the devil and the deep blue sea. That's me. And I can remember us you know, talking about getting t-shirts made about being holistic by day and hedonistic by night and stuff.
Yeah. That was self-love back in the day. Going out partying hard in the evening and kind of having a coffee and a cigarette to look after ourselves in the morning, wasn't it?
I know. So my very first upgrade that I did was, how can I start my day better? So my day was started by having, first of all, it was just some lemon, fresh lemon. So I started to get myself an organic box of vegetables delivered, and I get organic lemons, and I'd slice up some lemons and put them in hot water. And then I started to add to that. So I now have, and I still have that every single day, even if I go on holiday to another country. It was the first thing when I went to Egypt recently, you know, can we go out and get some ginger and some lemons? And I've even booked ahead before when I've been going away to make sure that there's some lemons and ginger in an Airbnb so that I can start my day in that way. And I have hot water with lemon, ginger, fresh turmeric if I can get hold of it, and a spoonful of raw honey. And I have that every single day to start my day. And so that was what I call like an upgrade. And I changed from having sugar to having a spoonful of honey in my coffee. And I called that an upgrade. And that was small ways of changing things rather than trying to change the whole thing. And then, as I said, you know, the word regardless comes in when you might enter your day with good intentions and then find yourself caught up with, oh, I forgot to get some healthy food, and having to get some food on the run, and finding the best thing that you can find and not beating yourself up for maybe not eating the best thing that you could have had because you weren't organized enough, but actually forgiving yourself and knowing that you've done the best that you can do today, and you can, you know, balance that out across the week. It hasn't got to be all perfect all the time. But other ways is recognizing what it is within you that's maybe starting to sabotage your efforts and trying to keep you in that better the devil you know place, that place of comfort. Because an example is, if you don't do any exercise at all and you know that you need to start doing some kind of exercise, there is a place where it really is more comfortable to not do it. So emotionally and mentally it's not comfortable, but physically it is. And you've got to put in some effort to get to the other side of that effort, to where it becomes more comfortable and you start to feel less comfortable in the old feeling than you do in the new one. And you can sort of take a few steps forwards and then come back. And that applies to not just physical exercise and not just what you eat, but really none of that is going to stick unless you address how you feel about yourself inside. And that's when the real work starts. Because it's only when you start doing these things that you notice what it is that you do to yourself, and you start to wonder, why do I do this? And that's where lots of different mindset. I mean, I have done so many different, as you know. I mean, I'll just tell the people out there, I mean, I've literally over the years, I have trained in neuro-linguistic programming, which is NLP. That was a real start for me to realize how our minds work, to give me, you know, my intention was at the time to do that for other people, but what I realized was that I needed to apply it to myself. And then I trained in hypnotherapy. So, you know, the great thing about training in that is you get to practice it on each other. So I totally went in and, you know, what can I heal? And I've trained in EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping. And that's really useful because you can take that anywhere. You can even do that in your head. You know, you can imagine doing it if you're in a situation. Breath work, using your breathing. Strala yoga is a way of being. So it's not just what you do on your yoga mat, it's actually how you are throughout your day. So if I catch myself getting, you know, tense and stressed out, it's just coming back to softening, being movable, allowing your breath to move you, slowing down and simplifying everything, making it less complicated. And that's a practice.
Yeah. So for our lovely viewers who are watching and who will watch this back on replay, we've obviously been doing the whole self-love thing a long time. It's taken me a lot longer than it has taken you to get into the whole self-love vibe. And I only really started doing that as we went just before we went into lockdown, actually. Change my diet, you know, and actually I could do the emotional side of things, but I wasn't doing the physical ones very well. And I've kind of caught up on that now. But for the people that are watching and maybe they've not really thought about the concept of self-love or even know where to start, can you think of 3 very simple things that people could start doing on a daily basis? You know, just 3 little things that they could introduce into their morning routine or their evening routine, just to start maybe becoming, start tuning into themselves a little bit.
Yep. So for sure, if you can find any time in your day just to take even a couple of minutes out to sit and be with yourself and do nothing at all. And I could say meditation here, but I know that straight away to people it's like, oh God, I've got to meditate, and straight away that puts you under pressure. Meditation isn't necessarily sitting cross-legged doing a meditation and doing all the breathing things, but just to stop. So one of my favorite hashtags is stop and notice. So just to take, before you go steaming into your habitual routines, is just to take a moment to simply notice how you feel, and however you're feeling, to just be okay with it regardless. And that is you starting to take care of yourself, because you're noticing, particularly if you are somebody who tends to notice everybody else first. So that would be one way, you know, if you do have time to do some meditation. So when I was running my Pilates and yoga studio, I actually had set times of the week so I could set it out for myself. What I did was I actually made myself get up half an hour earlier than I used to do, so that I could sit down and write down a few things that I was grateful for. So I started off my day from a place of gratitude rather than a place of, you know, poor me, I can't, I haven't, and I haven't got. And, you know, the more you practice gratitude, the more you start to notice what you have got rather than what you haven't got. And so that changes your state, it changes your emotional state, and it just raises your frequency up that you're emitting. So I actually had time to sit down and write down my gratitude and to do a 20-minute meditation every day. And I wish that I still had that routine, but my life is a bit different now, and the time of day, I can't always do that every morning now. So I have to like adjust and find different ways. So that's when things like just starting to be, so say for instance, I've had to go to Tesco's to get some food, to go and get some shopping at the last minute. Just that moment when you're standing waiting to pay is just to stop and notice how you feel. Am I movable? Am I breathing? And as I said, you know, the hot water with lemon thing, I think, you know, if you can start your day with something that's giving to yourself, that's another way. What else can I think of? Is that 3 things?
I think it might be.
I mean, and these days, I mean, you know, those of you who don't know, I mean, I actually started up in 2014. I actually, when that's sort of 10 years ago, I actually started up the Self-Love Club. And so what I did was started to hold workshops about this. And I always think that, you know, teacher teaches what she most needs to learn. So actually teaching it helps me to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started up the Self-Love Club, and then that eventually morphed into All Things Moon, which I come under the umbrella of All Things Moon now. So you can see my top here. Blame it on the moon. And we can blame it on the moon today, I think, because there was an eclipse yesterday. So another big thing for me is following the moon cycles and astrology, and getting to know my birth chart has helped me in a massive way to get to know myself better. About, you know, am I going against, why do I feel like this? Well, it's probably because I'm doing what others expect, or what I feel like I ought to be doing, and who am I really, and what do I really want? And that's quite a long journey for a lot of people, when you've given yourself away to everybody else and kind of lost yourself in the process, is deliberately doing something to get to know yourself.
I think also, as well, oh, gone, sorry.
And also, you know, seeking out, I don't even know if I've deliberately sought out people, but people along the way have appeared in front of me at the exactly right time, who have helped me in some way to heal some of the internal beliefs, limiting beliefs, behavioural patterns, the self-sabotaging behaviours that keep going on repeat because they're unconscious, subconscious programs that we've got running, that we actually have to deliberately go and do something about. They're not things that just go away. And so when you start off, so I was thinking about you saying, oh, you know, it took you longer to get started on your self-love journey, but Jackie is somebody who will go all in, whereas I'm what you call a slow burner. I do things over a long period of time, a bit at a time. It's not all in. I'm a gradual process, whereas you've gone like steaming in, and that's when you will hit a wall, because that's the sabotage coming up. But either way, whether you're an all in or a slow burner, at some point something will come up to try and stop you, and that might be somebody else around you as well. It could be other people, but usually it's yourself that's in your own way. And even when I'm teaching yoga, one of the things I always say is move out of your own way. Back into down dog, you know, move out of your own way, get out of your way.
I think one of the things that for me, in terms of practicing this, is that if I find myself sort of in a stressful situation, and once I actually realize how I'm you know, become conscious of how I'm reacting, I stop for a minute and say, am I reacting from my head, or am I reacting from my heart? Right, because if I'm reacting from my head, I'm reacting, how are other people wanting me to behave, kind of thing. And actually, if you come from your heart, it's, what do I need? What do I need? How do I need to navigate this situation or this feeling? And obviously, sometimes in the moment you can't instantly do it. You're sort of caught up in something. But I know that part of my practice is, if I've had a particularly stressful incident in my place of work, I think everybody knows that I work in retail full time, and this little glow club and my face yoga is just my passion, and I do that because I just love it so much. But I have stressful situations in retail, and I kind of, at the time, I'm in this heightened state, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, and then I walk away and think, hang on a sec, Jack, did you do that from your head or did you do that from your heart?
Mm.
And I think, hang on, has that, you know, it might be that I've had an altercation over using the self-service till. It happens a lot. and that isn't anybody's fault, but in the moment somebody can be quite rude to you and you take it personally, right? And I will very politely just sort of ignore the fact and carry on and do my job, but inside I'm churning, right? And then I go away afterwards, and I process. When I get home from work, I have sort of like 15 minutes where I just sit and process. I don't cook anything. Sometimes I'm still sitting in my coat, you know, and just and it's kind of, what can I let go of? What can I look back on and say, that was my head or that was my heart?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and actually sort of think, well, that person is frightened of using those tools, and their fear made them react that way. Or I don't know what's going on in that person's life.
Yeah.
So come out. I you know, I process. I come out of my head and I go into my heart, and I actually just send love and light to those people, because they're not really doing it because they're coming at you. You know, so it's kind of, if you can't process it in the moment, go back later on and just think, what's given me a little bit of stress today? Did I come at it from my head or did I come at it from my heart?
Mm.
And turn it around, because these altercations, these experiences that we have, aren't always what we think they are in the moment. And it's just kind of, and I find that really helps me get into a space of self-love and also love for others. But to give love to others, you have to come to loving yourself and actually say, it wasn't me. I reacted in the way that I did in that moment, but that wasn't wrong. It wasn't, you know, I have to love myself for how I reacted, and I'll send love to that person as well.
And a very simple way to come out of here, and, you know, I mean, I know your birth chart, so being, you know, air, you've got a lot of air in your chart, which is the mind. So it would be, you know, forgive yourself for it being up here and it being thoughts, because that would be a default mode for you to be up here, much more up here, you know, whereas I'm all down here. Everything's down here. I'm water, so it's all emotion and feeling, and so it's all in my body, you know, everything's in my body. But if you do find yourself caught up here, the easiest way to bring your attention from here to here is just to do that, you know. And I find myself, I do that an awful lot when I need to, is I just put my hand to my heart space, and that straight away brings your attention down here, and just to, you know, that slow down, simplify, stop making it so complicated. Breathe.
It's nice. I'm going to do that, actually. It does. It instantly just connects you into your heart space. So it's a really nice one to remember. I do forget to do that, actually. You know, I've learned it. So I did a meditation with it in a few months ago, and I just thought, oh yeah, I forgot all about that, and then I've completely forgotten again. You know, we do, because
dropping down from to a different part. You know, we have got as many there's more cells and we emit more electromagnetic energy from here than we do from here. That's a scientific fact. That's not a woo-woo thing. When you talk about, you know, thinking and coming down into your heart, what does your heart say? It really does. It really does let you know. But talking of remembering things, one of the things that I know that we wanted to broach the subject of around self-love regardless, but to do with the fact that, you know, that we are in the pro age coaching arena here, was we were talking about aging and it being a mindset.
Yeah.
And we were talking yesterday and I said about, you know, my inspiration is my own mother.
I was going to ask you that next.
Hello,
Who's your
Mum, if
inspiration?
you watch this. My mum is from Australia, so I doubt that she'll be watching now, but she might watch the replay.
We love you.
So, you know, my mum, she's, you know, not doing face yoga or anything. So if you were just to look at her skin, you might think, oh, you know, maybe she needs to do something with her skin around aging. But as soon as you start talking to my mum, you don't notice her age at all. You'd straight away think that she is younger than what she is, because she is, as your mum said, she's so vital. She's got a lot of vitality, and her zest for life inside her. She's so young in her way of being, in her thoughts. And I had a conversation today with one of the girls that comes to, which, you know, just leads me to the point of saying I've set up the Self-Love Club again. It's had a little rebirth on a Friday morning, and we meet in person. And I was talking to one of the girls that comes to that this morning, and she kept saying about, she's only really young, but she kept saying, I've got old bones. And I said to her, right, okay. I said, you need to hear what you're saying out loud. Every time you reiterate to yourself and the universe that you've got old bones, that starts to become a belief. It starts to become, you know, part of you. I said, so, you know, you haven't got old bones. You need to stop saying that. You've got young bones. You've definitely got young bones, believe me. So, you know, my mom goes through the world, you know, every now and again something will happen to remind her that maybe her bones aren't as young as she thinks they are, but she does so many things to keep herself well. You know, she does tap dancing, and she did Zumba for a long time, and Dance Fit, and she meets up with her friends, and, you know, she has a really energetic, active life.
She's got such a passion for life, and I think that's so important as we get older. I mean, we've kind of got all the mainstream messages that tells us that by the time we hit a certain age, we're written off. And, you know, and all we're going to do is spend our life popping pills and sitting in the doctor's surgery. But your mum is the total antithesis. Is the antithesis the word? The opposite of that?
Yeah.
She doesn't think about anything like that.
No.
No, it doesn't enter her psyche. She's still 20, and she does all her tap dancing and you know, she puts more on Facebook about her activities than we do. It's really wonderful to watch, and she inspires me actually as well. She's I know she's your inspiration, but it's kind of, when I look at when every time I see one of her posts on Facebook, that's how I want to be. That is the whole point of doing what I do, because that is how I want to be. She's absolutely cracking.
Yeah. So, you know, age is not necessarily just something about how you look, but I think what you exude to others is coming from how you feel on the inside. You know, it really is. And I think I'm, you know, in some ways I'm blessed to have that as a role model. And also maybe I was blessed to go to a school where age was irrelevant, because it was a very small school. There was only about sort of 25 people in each year. And it was a theatre school, so we all performed in shows and things together. So we were always together with all the different age groups. And I was reminded of that recently. A couple of years ago, I went back to dancing, because something I realised is, you know, what lights you up from the inside? What are you not doing that you love to do, and why are you not doing it? That's a really good thing to sit down, get your journal out and to journal on. So journaling is something I really, really, really promote, that I do with anybody who comes to any of my events. And I had this moment of realization that I had prevented myself, through all the stories that I'd written in my head, from doing what I most love to do, and that is to dance. And since I started dancing again, I found that my own healing of my own stuff has been rapid, because I've gone back to being like the essence of me, and I've had that experience of feeling more like me than I can feel doing anything else. And I know that is when I'm on stage dancing, and I don't get much opportunity to do that. I go to a dance class every week, but through going to that class, I've had the opportunity to be on stage a couple of times, and that has reminded me of right back to when I was young. You know, what let me up then, and then all the reasons why I stopped doing that. And that really was like I'm going to speak for myself here, but I think a lot of people will resonate with this, that we are almost apologizing for being who we are because of the reaction we get from others. Mm-hmm. So that, for in the world that I grew up with, that was a lot of jealousy, because I grew up in doing dancing competitions, and because I was quite a gifted dancer, I would win the competitions, which then obviously you get the resentment and the jealous girls and things like that. So somewhere along the way, I started to apologize for being myself. So I become less and less and less me. So there's this bit of me that's trying to be who I am, and there's this other bit of me that's sabotaging it all the time. And so it's been the self-love thing, you know, whether it be from my cat dying, doesn't really matter what the catalyst is. Sorry about that terrible joke. Whatever it is that sparks that inside you. I mean, if you are listening now, then there must be a reason why you've sort of like, oh, self-love regardless. I need to know about that. So yeah, it's realizing it's just as I brought my leg up here, it's just reminded me of, there's a yoga exercise where you actually tuck your leg into your arm like this. I'll show you. Look, there we go. There's my leg. Yes, I'm 53 and I can still do this with my leg. But when you hold your leg like that, I always say to people, look down at yourself, because you're holding your leg like a baby, and realize that you were that small once, and somebody held you like that and felt that strong unconditional love towards this baby that is you. So just for a moment, remember that and have that feeling towards yourself, because if you can give that to a baby or to somebody else or to an animal, then why can't you give that to yourself? You know, that is, and I think that's how you, once you've got a connection to, when you feel more connected to yourself, you can connect with others much better.
Beautiful. Can I just say, I'm not even going to attempt to try and do that move. And if you're not as flexible as Kellie Jones is, please don't, because I don't want any claims for any injuries where people have tried to put their leg under their arm. You are the bendiest person I know. So. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, and just, I wondered whether you could just take us through a very short little meditation styly thing just to get in out of our heads and into our heart space. I know that you do these often, and you're better off just doing them impromptu and channeling them anyway. So would you mind doing that for us?
I can. And what we'll do is we're going right back to that studio in New York, and I spent a month in that studio. And when I arrived for that month in New York, it was not that long after a series of really traumatic things had happened to me. And so when I arrived there, I felt very vulnerable. But I sat for a month in this yoga studio, and every single session we would start off with this one very short meditation. And I really do think that it helps to shift something in you. So
yes, please.
find yourself, just center yourself. Just find yourself comfortable seated. We don't need to sit in any particular fashion, just feel comfortable. And you might want to bring your hands to your heart space. But if that doesn't feel right to you, then you could have your palms up, open to receiving. And then just allow your eyes to gently shut. And start to notice your breath coming in and going out. And no particular type of breath, but just noticing that when you breathe in, there is a slight sense of expansion and lift. So as you breathe in, you gently rise up and expand. And as you breathe out, allow a softening to happen. And that's not necessarily just a physical softening. So maybe softening the jaw, the face muscles. And I always think once you've softened the face, you notice that softening drifts down the body. But also with each exhale, allow yourself to soften your thoughts that you might be having about yourself or about me or about anything else in the world right now. So allow those thoughts to soften. And almost imagining that if you've got an energetic field, that's maybe softening any harsh lines or edges. If they were drawn with a pencil, you'd be slightly smudging them. And just simply noticing how you feel. Without any judgment or criticism or any need to do anything about how you feel, but just simply noticing how you feel. And just allowing the breath to come in and go out, just like the waves come up onto the shore and back out again. We don't need to try to do that. That just happens all by itself. Maybe noticing that your heart just simply beats for you all by itself. Maybe feeling a moment of gratitude for the things that you don't need to do anything about because they simply work by themselves. And then we're going to roll 3 questions through our minds. And this is a practice in not trying to control the answers, to look for the answers, but to just trust that somewhere deep down inside you, you already know the answers. And you have no need to look for those answers right now. Just simply asking the question is enough. So just continuing to notice your breath. as we roll these questions through our minds. Who am I? What do I want? And how can I serve? I'm just going to repeat those questions just once more. No need to fret or worry about any answers. Who am I? What do I want? And how can I serve? And then just bringing the palms of the hands together, plugging your thumbs into the heart space. Just taking a big inhale through the nose. A long, easy exhale through the mouth. Big inhale. Long exhale. One more big, easy inhale. Long exhale. And gently open your eyes.
Oh, that was beautiful. Really, really felt that in my heart space. Switched that right on. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we've covered.
For anybody, just, I know that's something that gets commented on that last question. How can I serve? And that's not about, you know, being a servant to others, like being in service. Like, you know, that's not what it means. It means really, you know, about purpose. How can being you, fully you, serve the world?
Yeah, when we're hiding ourselves away, we're not serving anyone. So, you know, it's kind of really embracing who we are, learning to love who we are, and then that way we are being of service.
Yeah. Yeah, and very much with this Libra eclipse that we had yesterday in the sign of Libra, which is all about how we relate to others. It's about relationships with others. It's about others, basically. One of the shadow sides of Libra is people pleasing, you know, and we're coming up to an Aries eclipse in April, which is all about me. Not me personally, but it's I am. What about me?
Me.
Yeah. So, you know, self-love would be, you know, self-love to oneself is to, you know, notice what you need and less of that people-pleasing thing and putting yourself to one side and finding the balance with that, harmonizing that.
Awesome. Oh, I've loved this. It's been lovely. We have chats like this all the time. So, you know, we're always chatting about, well, we chat about everything, but we have chats like this, getting into deeper sides a lot. So, and I will say, you have when you came into my world, we were very, very different people. And we are two people that have absolutely grown together.
Yeah.
Which has cemented our friendship and our relationship. And I appreciate my friendship with you every day, because I have learned some of my biggest lessons in life through our friendship. So, you know, and I think this probably works both ways. But So what I wanted to, for just before we go, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more? Because you do so much. You've got the self-love club, you do the yoga, but I think the moonology, I'm going to get you on another time to just do a random talk about moonology because it's so damn interesting. You know, and that kind of stuff. So how can people get in touch with you? We will put the links in the comments below this talk so that you will have direct links to them. But how can people reach you?
So the easiest way on Facebook, where I think we predominantly are now, is I do have a group called All Things Moon. And I'm Kellie Jones, so I'm Kellie. My website is kelliejones.me. Couldn't resist that one. So all my events and things that I have going on are all on the website, but I always put them first in the All Things Moon group. I also have a podcast on Spotify called All Things Moon. And I'm All Things Moon Kellie on Instagram.
Fabulous. So please can you put all of them links in the comments when we finish this, and then everybody can access those. That's absolutely fantastic.
And if it's just sound healing that you're interested in, we do have a Gong to the Moon page.
Yeah.
As well.
If nobody's ever done a gong bath before, I absolutely highly recommend it. And you're starting to do more of those now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
this weekend it was a spring equinox, and I did one on Friday with Tom as Gong to the Moon. That's the first one we've done in Chelmsford since 2021, and we sold out.
It's mad.
I did one on Sunday with a couple of girls that I know in Canvey Island, and that was sold out as well. So over the course of the weekend, there was probably nigh on 60 people came to those gong baths. So that is growing. It's growing massively, but we do need more men. Please tell the men. In that whole weekend, there were 3 men, and all the rest were women.
I'm just going to go through quickly the comments. Hi, Anne. I know I think you're joining us from California. So thank you for joining us across the pond. I'm sure you're stateside, but hello, lovely to have you here. She's saying beautiful perspectives. So glad you've enjoyed the conversation. Susie saying thank you for a lovely conversation. Thank you, Susie, for being with us.
Yeah, and thank you, Susie, because Susie has been learning a healing modality, which she has been practicing on me, and it really, really has helped shift some stuff only just recently. So
brilliant. Susie, we might have to get you on for a chat at some point, my darling. No pressure. But anyway, Kellie, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has been really insightful, and I think it's given an insight into how to look after, it's where it all starts. I kind of do the whole face yoga thing, and I kind of say, oh, this and that and the other, but it really does start from tapping into ourselves and actually just starting to love ourselves a little bit more. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. Please, if you've got any questions or anything that you think, anything that you want a little bit of clarity on, then pop it in the comments, and Kellie and I will definitely come back to you with some answers. But I'm going to call it a night. It's just coming up to an hour. So, yeah. So, Kellie, stay on, don't disappear. And lots of love to everyone. And we will see you all very soon. Bye for now.